Admiral Vextar of the Hegemony Fleet clicked his mandibles in satisfaction as he observed the tactical display. Earth hung before them like a blue marble, silent and defenseless. No response to their ultimatum, no desperate pleas for mercy. No futile attempts at negotiation. "Curious," muttered his tactical officer Zephyrin. "The humans have gone completely dark. No communications, no ship movements, nothing." "Fear," Vextar declared with certainty. "They know they cannot match our might. Their silence is the silence of the defeated." He gestured at the massive fleet surrounding them. Over 3,000 vessels from 17 different species, all united under the Hegemony's banner. "Begin the final approach. We'll accept their surrender and begin integration protocols." The fleet had been monitoring Earth for cycles, ever since the humans had made their clumsy first contact attempt. A single probe, crude by galactic standards, bumbling through space with primitive fusion engines. The Hegemony had initially dismissed them as another backwater species, barely worth cataloging. But then the humans had done something unprecedented. They had refused the Hegemony's generous offer of vassal status. No species refused the Hegemony. Not twice. As the fleet closed distance, Vextar reflected on humanity's foolishness. They had been given every opportunity. The standard warnings, demonstrations of superior firepower against asteroids in their system, even a grace period to reconsider. Instead, they had simply stopped talking. Their communication arrays had gone silent, their ships had disappeared from their usual patrol routes, and their orbital installations had powered down. "Admiral," Zephyrин's voice carried a note of uncertainty. "Long-range sensors are detecting some unusual readings from the planet's surface." Define unusual. "Massive energy buildups in several locations. The signatures are strange, not matching any known defensive systems in our databases." Vextar's confidence wavered slightly. In his centuries of service, he had overseen the integration of 47 different species. He knew the patterns. Some fought desperately, others negotiated, and a few simply surrendered. But none had ever gone completely silent. "Perhaps they're powering up their defensive grids for a last stand," he mused. "No matter. Our fleet could crack a planet. Whatever they're planning, it's futile." The first indication that something was terribly wrong came when the outer picket ships reported contact with unknown vessels. Not the crude, fusion-powered craft they expected, but sleek, angular ships that seemed to bend light around their hulls. "Sir, the humans are hailing us," reported the communications officer. "Now they want to talk?" Vextar laughed. "Put them through." The hologram that materialized showed a human female in a crisp military uniform. She appeared calm, almost serene. Behind her, Vextar could see what looked like a massive command center bustling with activity. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force," she said without preamble. "You have entered our system with hostile intent. This is your only warning. Withdraw immediately." Vextar found her audacity amusing. "Admiral Chen, I am Vextar of the Hegemony. You face the combined might of 17 civilizations. Your species' silence these past months led us to believe you had accepted the inevitable. Surrender now and your integration will be swift and merciful." Admiral Chen smiled, an expression that somehow managed to be both pleasant and predatory. "Our silence? Admiral, we weren't being silent. We were being polite. We were giving you time to leave on your own." "Polite?" Vextar's mandibles clicked in confusion. "You see, Admiral, when someone threatens your home, your family, your entire species, there are two ways to respond. You can panic and fight desperately with whatever you have on hand, or you can take a deep breath, step back, and prepare properly." The tactical display suddenly lit up with new contacts, hundreds of them. Ships emerging from what appeared to be empty space, their stealth systems disengaging simultaneously. But these weren't the primitive vessels the Hegemony had cataloged. These were predators made manifest in metal and energy. "For the past 18 months, Admiral Chen continued, while you've been posturing and making demands, we've been doing what humans do best when threatened. We adapted, we innovated, and we prepared for war. Zephrin's voice cracked as he read the tactical data. Sir, I'm reading weapons signatures unlike anything in our databases. Energy outputs that should be impossible for a species at their technological level. You made one critical error, Admiral Vextar, Chen said, her voice remaining unnaturally calm. You assumed that the technology you observed during first contact represented our full capabilities. That probe you intercepted? That was our greeting card. You don't show your weapons when you're introducing yourself to new neighbors. The first human ship to engage moved like nothing in the hegemony fleet. It phased through incoming fire, struck 3 vessels simultaneously with beams that seemed to ignore shields entirely, then vanished again before return fire could target it. The humans have one significant advantage over every species you've conquered, Chen explained as alarms began sounding throughout Vextar's flagship. We've never been the apex predator on our own planet. We've spent our entire evolutionary history learning to outwit, outmaneuver, and overcome things bigger, stronger, and more numerous than ourselves. Another wave of human ships materialized, these ones larger, bristling with weapons that defied conventional physics. They moved in perfect coordination like a pack of predators that had hunted together for millennia. We learned that when faced with overwhelming force, you don't meet it head-on unless you're desperate, Chen continued as the hegemony fleet began taking catastrophic losses. You prepare, you study your enemy, you develop countermeasures, and then when you're ready, you strike with precision and overwhelming technological superiority. Vextar watched in horror as his mighty fleet, the pride of 17 civilizations, was systematically dismantled by forces that seemed to exist outside the normal rules of physics. Ships phase-shifted through solid matter, weapons that struck, without crossing the space between, defensive systems that turned attacks back on their origins. Our silence wasn't surrender, Admiral. It was the sound of an entire species holding its breath while it prepared for war. We've been watching, learning, and building. Every threat you made, every demonstration of power, every tactical formation you showed us. We analyzed it all. The battle, if it could be called that, was over in 17 minutes. Of the 3,000 ships in the hegemony fleet, fewer than 100 remained functional, and those only because the humans had deliberately disabled rather than destroyed them. Here's what's going to happen, Admiral Chen said as rescue shuttles began, launching from the human vessels toward the crippled hegemony ships. We're going to send you home with a message. Earth is not interested in joining your hegemony, but we are very interested in discussing a new arrangement, one based on mutual respect rather than subjugation. Vextar, his pride and fleet in ruins around him, could only stare at the human admiral in shock. Oh, and Admiral, Chen added with that same predatory smile, next time you encounter a species that goes silent when threatened, you might want to consider the possibility that they're not cowering. They might just be getting ready to show you why their planet produced apex predators. The communication ended, leaving Vextar alone with the terrible realization that the hegemony had just encountered something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. A species that had turned preparation for war into an art form.